Good morning. My name's Isabel and I'm one of the congregation at Holy Trinity Church, Formby. For this morning's reflection, I hope you're sitting comfortably because we're going to start with a story. It comes from the book of Joshua, chapter 2. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. "Go, look over the land," he said, "especially Jericho." So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, "Look, some of the Israelites have come here to spy out the land." So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab: "Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land." But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, "Yes, the men came to me, but I didn't know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, the men left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them." But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she laid out on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan, and as soon as the pursuers had gone, the gate was shut. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, "I know that the Lord has given this land to you, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting with fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts sank, and everyone's courage failed because of you, for the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and my sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death." "Our lives for your lives," the men assured her. "If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land." So she let them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. Now she'd said to them, "Go to the hills so that the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way." The men said to her, "This oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless, when we enter the land, you have tied this scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you have brought your father and mother, your brothers, and all your family into your house. If anyone goes outside your house, into the street, his blood will be on his own head. We will not be held responsible. As for anyone who is in the house with you, his blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on him. But if you tell what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear." "Agreed," she replied. "Let it be as you say." So she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied the scarlet cord in the window. When they left, they went into the hills and stayed there 3 days, until the pursuers had searched all along the road and returned without finding them. Then the 2 men started back. They went down out of the hills, forded the river, and came to Joshua son of Nun, and told him everything that had happened to them. They said to Joshua, "The Lord has surely given the whole land into our hands. All the people are melting in fear because of us." Well, it's quite a story, isn't it? And I love the cinematic way it's told, the little touches of detail, like the flax that the men are hidden under on the roof, and the scarlet cord to be hung in the window as a symbol. In its place in the book of Joshua, it's a little bit of an anomaly, this story. The main narrative is all about how the children of Israel are about to be brought back to the promised land. And then there's this little chapter about Rahab and the spies. There were a couple of things that really struck me about it when I read it. some of the language, the description of the situation, how the people of Jericho are seeing an inexorable force coming towards them, something they're powerless to resist. They're terrified, they're melting with fear. What an evocative phrase. There's an act of kindness that changes the fortunes of a family. There's that extraordinary phrase, your lives for our lives. There is the family going into isolation. Well, that sounds strangely familiar, doesn't it? That act of kindness, that's the thing I come back to. We're so used to thinking of kindness in a very British way. It's associated with cups of tea, looking out for people, helping out in little ways. We're starting to see kindness as something much bigger because of the extraordinary and heroic acts of kindness we're seeing in the face of coronavirus. But in this story, it doesn't quite even sound like that. This is kindness which is secret. It's kindness which is almost involved with scheming. It sounds as though Rahab may have just come up with a plan that would save her and her family. That doesn't sound very kind at all. But then you listen to what Rahab says to the spies and realise it's not just self-interest coming here. She has seen the act that God has been carrying out. Her countrymen have been terrified, but she has recognised that this is the power of God and that this is a God who can act in her life too. And so by caring for these spies, she can become involved in the whole future that God has mapped out for their households and their families too. And so I'd like to think of her doing some kind things, washing their feet, giving them a meal, looking after them. I have a sense that there was an engagement between them, and the way that they responded to her with such detail. There's a relationship there, and that relationship was born out of an act of kindness. So the story goes on. It's clear from some of the very graphic language that they knew what a terribly dangerous thing this was that they were doing. They knew that on either side, the penalty of being found out would probably be put to death. But it all comes out, and in the end, the spies escape. Rahab's family, when Jericho falls, are all protected, and in the fullness of time they become part of the people of Israel. Rahab herself is mentioned in the genealogy of Christ at the beginning of the book of Matthew. So I'm left pondering this story, and I have to say, I'm left challenged to be so kind, but to be kind at a time and in a way that is so challenging, to have to be secret, to have to be so brave. I'm not sure I could have done that. So my reflection on this passage, my reflection on what's going on in the wider world, is to think about kindness, to think about the kindness I show, and to think about how I can take it one step further, how I can rise to the challenges that God sets to me. And I want to throw that challenge out to you too. So I have a prayer for us to finish with. Let us not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless in facing them. Let us not beg for the stilling of pain, but for the heart to conquer it. Let us not look for allies in life's battlefield, but to the strength that God has given us. Let us not crave in anxious fear to be saved, but hope for the patience to win freedom. Grant that we may not be cowards, O Lord, feeling your mercy in our success alone, but let us find the grasp of your hand in our failures. Go into the reality of today's world to be the people of God, persons living in community. Amen. So, I wish you a good start to your day, a courageous start, and God's blessing as you go through the rest of the days to come. Bye bye for now.